Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
I'm glad I get teary-eyed before I get to come up and preach. Thanks, Maury. This afternoon we have something very exciting happening. If you are the parent or grandparent of one of our high school or junior high students, one of the commitments we made as we hired Brad was we were looking for someone, not that others have done a bad job, but Brad is very committed to making sure that our parents know what's going on in our youth ministries at this church. And today at noon, Brad's throwing a luncheon together. Just show up. It's exciting, the things he's doing. You're going to want to know what he's teaching. You're going to want to know some of the things he's going through with your students, so you can be a part of that. So as you come back today, if you're looking for some lunch, if you just want free food and pretend you have a junior hire, that's okay with me too. He left already, so he can't hear anything. So yeah, there's a wonderful time this afternoon to come out and hang out. But if you'd like to do that, let us know. Just come by at noon, but it'd be really great to see you. We're excited what Brad is doing. We're excited the connection he's making with parents, the staff that he's building, and we're just excited about the things that God is doing here at Crossroads Church. One of the greatest things I've been able to do in my life is visit the Holy Land. I got to when I was intern here actually in 1997. I got to go that summer and I got to spend a month doing evangelism ministry in Jerusalem and the rest of the parts of Israel, Galilee, the Dead Sea region. And we spent a month there doing evangelism and walking through the steps of Christ. I got to swim in the Sea of Galilee. This is a very cool thing to do. You get to get in, we were swimming around, we get to go on boat rides, you get to sit in these places where you think about where these men were throwing the nets in. You get to go on boat rides and you imagine Jesus with his disciples, you imagine the waves, and you see it for yourself. Really this small lake that is called the Sea of Galilee. I remember seeing Nehemiah's wall. There's a place they found, and Nehemiah was so specific, you could tell who probably built that section of wall as they unearthed it. To see that this story come to life. I got to go through this horrible place called Hezekiah's Tunnel. If you ever heard of that, Hezekiah built a tunnel to bring water in during the siege of Babylon. It's about 5 feet high, about 2 feet wide, and they said, that'll be fun to watch Jeremiah go through that. And I'm claustrophobic, so that was neat. I got to go to Har Megiddo. Har Megiddo is the city of Megiddo where we get our word Armageddon. Har Megiddo overlooks the last battle of Jezreel. I got to stand there, the place where Napoleon stood, as he wondered what that last battle would look like. I got to sit in the garden tomb and imagine a Christ returning and walking on earth again and the changes that have made. One of the most amazing things we did there was we got to do a really difficult 2-day journey. The first day we went downtown to the main square, like a Times Square. And we got to visit a college it's considered a Messianic Jewish college. And a Messianic Jew is a Jew who is a believer in Christ. They are Christians. And through this process, we got to sit with them and listen to the hurts that were going on in their lives. This was the time when they were bombing buses a lot in the late 90s. You were getting a lot of nail bombs where the terrorists would come and they would strap bombs to their body, step into a crowd with nails in it, and they would set themselves off. This would happen weeks after we left, each time we went to Israel. And we sat with these Jewish men and we would talk to them about what was happening in their lives. And the next day, we drove across a border. If you don't know, Bethlehem is a part of Palestine or under Palestinian control. It's not unlike driving from San Diego into Mexico, the difference of the two. It's incredibly well guarded. You don't just get to cross it when you want. And you step into this place, you go from first world to third world immediately. We drove to this little place after we saw the Church of the Nativity. We drove to this small college called the Bethlehem Bible College. And this is where Palestinian believers were worshiping and learning about who God was. And in those 2 days, we asked one of the same questions. We asked the question, is Israel supposed to be here? Was Israel supposed to get their nation back? And you get two radically different answers, of course. For the Jews, it's of course. The Bible says it's here. The Bible says that the Jewish nation will be returning and get their nation back. But for the Palestinians, who had undergone some tough stuff from the nation of Israel, some bombing of their houses, some difficult things from the army, they said, of course not. They lost that a long time ago. Those are promises for the Old Testament. That's not for now. They took our country over and took it from us. Now, I'm not saying I agree or disagree with those statements, but it was interesting. We stepped between two places, and to feel the tension of 1,000 years of hurt and pain and struggle and strife in 2 days is one of the most memorable parts of my journey to Israel. It is etched in my memory to hear them both talk about this history and this pain. It hurt me so much to know there were brothers in Christ that had such a deep division between them that even Christ was not bringing them together and reconciling them under this new banner and this new life. That still their differences were so great of nation and ethnic and history, they couldn't move beyond this. They couldn't get past it. They couldn't find a way to work through it. They couldn't. And so when I visited in 1997, you had one college for Jews, one college for the Palestinians, and they didn't really do much together. In fact, when you brought the other one up, they were fairly critical of the other one. They would say, well, his views are crazy and they're a little strange, and crazy things were happening there. But these two tensions affected us, and it affected them. It made Jesus' healing very, very, very difficult. I think of the condition of this church, and I think there's something that applies there. I think there's a lot of us, as I've gone through the last year as lead pastor. By the way, I got a lead title about 6 months ago. My job didn't actually change. I was just tired of trying to say pastor of college and church administration. It's really hard to get that on a business card. It is. So we simplified it a little bit so you knew who was making decisions and who was responsible, really so you could just point at me and it's his fault. Very easy that way, right? So the lead pastor, I'm not the new senior pastor. Again, I'm not being groomed for that position. Again, I may apply for it when the time comes, but we're not working toward that way right now. But in the last year as lead pastor, I've moved into a lot of situations to just listen about the last 20, 30 years, about people, what they're going through, what they've seen. And I feel like everyone I talk to has this old hurt. The old hurt. I think it may be part of, I'm Swedish. I like to hold on to things. It's my favorite pastime besides sarcasm and passive aggressivism. Okay? It's my spiritual gift. Okay? I like to hold on to things. I think it may be a Swedish thing. I'm not sure. Like, you're not supposed to. You're supposed to be this hard. I'm a Swedish guy. I'm not supposed to share things or have emotion at all. I remember the first time my Swedish grandfather called me. He goes, it'd be neat to see you. I cried because I'd never had that much emotion from my Swedish grandfather in my life. So I think that may be part of our culture. And now I don't say this old hurt, this old pain. I don't say it in a judgmental way. I don't say it because you should stop that right now. You're just hurting us. I'm not saying that. It's just an observation I've made. It's an observation that maybe even God's helped me to see, to say, there's some hurt. There's some old stuff that people can remember verbatim from 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They can tell me things that happened exactly the way they happened 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and even 25 and 30 years ago. There's a sense that there's that deep hurt in us. There's old wounds. There's old battle scars in some of our family. Now, sometimes we hold on to things in our family, and this is just kind of part of who we are as we look at who our church is over the next year. This is kind of part of who we are. We like to hold on to stuff. We like to put it down, this inconveniencing for other people maybe, but for whatever reason we do it, it's there. And I've been bumping into it on purpose, I admit, okay? Now, in trying to see this, I was wondering what verses applied to us as a church. I was praying through this Sunday as Pastor John was leaving, and as I was listening to his sermon last week, I came up with some thoughts for you this morning. We're going to be in Matthew 5 this morning. We're going to be looking at the famous Beatitudes in Matthew 5. These are sayings from Jesus that involved a single word, and this word is blessed. He used the word blessed, 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 blessed. I can't say blessed because I do not have a King James version, okay? So just blessed, okay? This is blessed over and over again. And I think this word in our modern church, once again, Matthew 5, gets misunderstood how we use the word blessed today. For instance, think about how you use the word blessed. For what situations would you speak the word about maybe somebody else that they are blessed? I think it's usually where money is involved, to be really honest. Like if somebody won the lotto, I'd be like, blessed, well done. Okay? That's just how I sense things. If somebody had made a good business decision, I would go, they are blessed. If someone had something great happen to somebody, maybe success in business, maybe success in their job, maybe whatever that happens, success in marriage, great kids, they are so blessed. There's a success parameter that we link with blessed. On a deep level, it involves success. For us to say someone is blessed means we're seeing them in this world achieve success. And I would say, hey man, they're blessed, good for them. And I would use it that way, maybe you would too. This seems to apply to the Old Testament. God uses it for Jacob and Abraham. He blesses the work of their hands. Joseph is used this way, bless the work of his hands while he's in prison, as he goes into work for the house of Pharaoh. He consistently, the sense is that he's blessed. I will say this as a sweeping statement. I have never read in the New Testament where the word blessed ever applies to that. Now again, you may find one for me. I appreciate that. I've done several sweeps of the New Testament. I've looked up every time the word blessed is used. I've never seen it once where it applies to material stuff, ever, ever, ever. In fact, Jesus seems to turn this whole thought on his head when in Luke, not Matthew, in Luke he says, blessed are the poor. Not poor in spirit. In Luke it says, blessed are the poor. In fact, I think the Israelites like us had the same blessed concept. Blessed, they're so blessed. When he said blessed are the poor, people were like, that doesn't make any sense. And it's not supposed to. The word blessed, I believe in the New Testament, and the way Jesus uses it, one pastor said, blessed is having a special friendship with. That God is especially close to. This is the word blessed in the New Testament. That God moves among, in a special way, particular parts of the human population. Psalm 34:18 says, Yahweh, the Lord, is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. This is the sense of blessed I would like you to think about this morning. God is close to. So as we look at this word, blessed, God is close to. So the first sense is God is close to. The second idea for blessed, and this is very important, that goes against how we use it, is you didn't earn it at all. The blessings of this passage are unearned blessings. Now, some of you may say, of course they are, but I don't think we think of it that way. Many times I hear taught that poor in spirit means I need to get really, really humble to get God's blessing. I need to get humble in spirit, super, super humble, and then God will bless me. That's just, see, what Jesus was doing is he said, what is it? Good news. It was new news. To say you just got humble and you could earn God's blessing was old news. That's the way the religions have been doing it for years. Muslims do that. The Pharisees were amazing at it. They were super humble. They'd grovel and they would pray certain ways to look really, really humble to get God's blessing. I heard one pastor say that poor in spirit basically means blessed are those who are really bad at religion and spirituality. Your buddy who ditches church for football, guys, he's blessed. Ladies, your friends who don't go to small groups during the week, like, I don't know, and they'd rather go to other things, that do other things, go shopping perhaps, they're blessed. God is pursuing them. God is close to them. Why? Because they don't deserve it. This is the good news of blessed. Blessed. So I believe that poor in spirit, as are all the Beatitudes, are not admirable states we work towards, but rather the states of the Beatitudes are simple ways human beings already are, and God moves into those situations. As it says, God is close to those who suffer in Psalms. I believe that Jesus is reiterating that as a reality even today. Let's look at this verse here. The verse I want to look at this morning is simply this. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are the peacemakers. Now, again, there's a little passage here that we have to think through. There's a mental gymnastics we have to do because I think we think of, again, peacemaking as let me go do it a lot so I can get super, super blessed from God. Okay? I believe that's wrong. I think of the peacemakers, again, we talked about this a little bit last year, that these people that move between relationships constantly and try and fix everything for everybody. That the beauty of America is that half of us are middlemen in here, and that's what we do for a job. And I understand that works in an economy, but in a church economy, that does not work. Proverbs says, so a guy who would grab a dog by the ears, an angry dog by the ears, is a guy who jumps into a quarrel that's not his. You ever grabbed an angry dog by the ears? It actually works. That's how they would have controlled him back then. You grab it like this, and it's just, argh. Now the problem is what? Letting go. You got that dog. I got him. I have a 110-pound dog. I can get him by the ears, but now I'm stuck. You move into corals that aren't yours, you may look good for about 2 minutes, and then you're like, and I'm stuck. Now they're going to turn on you, and you're like, oh, I was kidding, okay? That's what the proverb is saying. So I believe that the peacemaker is not the busybody out trying to fix everybody's everything. Not the guy trying to go do this. Not the guy trying to be holy and saying, I will fix everything. I will move into situations. I will fix. And there's even some of you that are great at this. That you will continue to fix relationships that you know are harmed in your life. But I do not believe that's what Jesus is talking about here. I believe he's talking about a particular kind of person. I believe that the peacemakers are those that are so tired of fighting, all that's left is peace. They're in a place where they're just tired. They're tired of fighting. They're tired of struggling. They're tired of the battles in Israel, and they just like, I give up. I think of the wonderful prime minister in the 90s of Israel who was unfortunately assassinated, who was the one great shot we had at making peace. He was amazing, and he was moving that direction. But you had the sense about him that he was just tired of fighting. There was no great holy reason behind it. There was no great movement to say, oh, I'm going to do this for God. He was just tired. He couldn't imagine waking up tomorrow and fighting anymore. Blessed are the peacemakers may mean those who are tired of seeing the bodies, whether figurative or literal, that pop up around them because of hurt and pain and suffering. They're just tired. They're tired of seeing it. They're tired of it for their lives, and they especially do not want it for their children's lives or their grandchildren's lives. Those, I believe, are the peacemakers. They are the ones that are motivated simply by weariness. I believe God joins those folks. I believe he joins them because they don't have super spiritual reasons for doing it. They simply do it because there's no other option left. Either that or give up totally. So there's this release sense to peacemaking to me. This sense that blessed are those who are tired of the game. Blessed are those who are tired of the eye for eye. Blessed are those who are tired of fighting because they're tired of seeing the results of their committing hurts against other people and other people hurting them. They're not holier than we are. They're just tired. They're tired of fighting. They're tired of struggling. They're tired of sprinting. They're tired of finding ways to get people back. They're just tired. Blessed are the tired. Happy are the tired. God moves among those who are tired. To me, the alternative in the Bible is Saul. Saul, the one who was hurt so deeply by Yahweh, when Yahweh tells him, you're not king anymore. Remember the situation? Samuel shows up, and he was supposed to have killed the entire population. And Samuel goes, I did it. And Saul goes, I killed everybody. I did my job. And Samuel's line is so great. He goes, then what is this bleating in my ears of sheep that I hear? I.e., moron in the Bible. It's in the Hebrew. You have to read very carefully. And he has a sense of like, no, you didn't. He goes, but I was going to sacrifice these to God. Great line in the Bible. He goes, hey, you know what, Saul? To obey is better than sacrifice. You can sacrifice and do all your religious activity, but if you're not going to obey in the midst of that. And after that, he says, you know what? God's finding a new king. I don't think Saul ever got over that. And the hurt you see he inflicts upon the people of Israel as he chases David, as he throws spears at him and goes crazy. He goes to visit a witch to draw up Samuel's soul from Sheol. This is crazy stuff. This is Macbeth stuff. That's probably how they got Macbeth, the character, out of Saul, this deeply hurt human that goes out and just slays everyone around him and never gives up till he dies, never gets tired. That's how I see someone who has run completely by church. The last year has been my pleasure. Pleasure is not the correct word. Let's see here. It has been my honor to move in among the hurt of some of our community, to listen to the pain of some of the family we have here, the hurts of the last 20 years, as many of our pastors have, and to listen and to hear, because I am tired. I'm tired like you are. I'm tired like many of you are. You are tired. I am tired. And so therefore, our church has become reluctant peacemakers. I have no program for you. I have no organizational ideas for you. We are purely reluctant peacemakers. Realize that peacemakers is one of the only plurals of the Beatitudes. Poor in spirit is singular. Peacemakers is plural. It isn't blessing me because I'm a peacemaker. It's blessing a family because they're peacemakers. Because they've given up and they're tired. I believe that under the current ups and downs in our church, we are a people who hold on to hurt a little bit. Again, it's just an observation I make about both myself, being from Turlock, being from a similar church as this one, Monte Vista Chapel, with the same kinds of people that hold on to things. I believe we do this as a church. But I believe that God is moving, and I believe we are tired. A few years ago, I was sitting with my friend Louis Inks, who was my mentor that took me to Israel. And he told me about a new program they were instituting among those two schools I talked about, Bethlehem Palestinians, Jerusalem Messianic Jews. So what they would do is they would take a Palestinian young man and they would take a Jewish young man and they would take them camping together, and for an entire weekend they would spend in a tent cooking everything. And the worst of it all, I wouldn't even want to do this with like Brad Quillen, one of my good friends. This would be awful. They put them on the same camel together. So we're going to go that way about 50 miles, go. And these guys are stuck together for like days But what does that do? It makes them listen to each other. It makes them, instead of talking to Americans who show up, guess what? They start talking to each other. And the fruit they've seen, even as the conflict has gotten worse, 1,000-year-old hurts are being healed. And I believe because it's a generation that said we're tired. We're tired of bombing each other. We're tired of hurting each other. We're tired of seeing the pain we see in Israel. We're tired. And so they got together. And it's this beautiful reconciliation ministry where young men are moving past the errors of their parents. But it was very special to see this. It's very special to hear that God can move and do so much with so much hurt. God is blessing our efforts, by the way, to move into each other's hurts. The last year, I have seen massive blessings, meaning that he is among us as we try this. That we see him moving between our relationships to heal stuff that's very, very old and very, very deep. I have seen him do some wonderful things in the last year. Some of you never thought you could let go of some of the hurts you had a year ago. Some of you, I know you never thought you could. Some of you, and a lot of it, I will be very honest, was hurts toward us as the leadership of this church. There were just old hurts, and you remembered, and it was hard to let go of. And some of you couldn't imagine getting through this. A year ago, you might have said, God's not even here anymore at Crossroads Church. And I've seen wonderful moments where people, not because of me listening, but because God was there already. He was softening our hearts because we're tired. He was blessing us as peacemakers because we're tired. And we started to work through pain and hurt and old stuff. Some of you hurt still. You know the difference between crisis and conflict? Do you know this? Conflict is when we have normal situations where we just don't agree. By the way, conflict is ministry. To avoid conflict is stupid. Okay, you don't agree with me, I don't agree with you. This is part of doing church together. This is how we do life together. Conflict is normal. For us to sit together and discuss what church is doing, and maybe even get a little heated about it, is normal. That's okay. You ever hear Chris and I have a discussion on a Monday morning? It sounds like the gates of Hades have flown open, just people screaming, because him and I are loud. If you ever hear us discussing something passionately, the decibels alone will blow your eardrums out. They will. There's no two louder people in this church than me and Chris. We will hurt you, okay? We will. When we discuss, so it's intense, and we get in each other's faces, and when it's done, it's done. We had a nice conflict. We're over it. Crisis is when my feelings get hurt, when I feel disrespected, when I feel like someone stepped on me, whether intentionally or unintentionally. You can never fix a conflict till the crisis gets fixed. You can never move beyond to fix simple church stuff until the hurt is dealt with in a situation. If I hurt someone and we're working in the ministry, maybe one of my college staff people, maybe one of my post-college students, if I hurt them and we're trying to do ministry together, we can't do ministry together until we learn to get through that hurt together. Till we talk to each other, maybe have a good yelling match on the phone, which is very healthy for men, yes? Instead of fist fighting, a little less healthy, okay? This is what we are doing. This is what we are seeing. We are seeing a movement away from crisis just to nice, normal, beautiful conflict. I like conflict. It's fun, okay? I like a good discussion, heated discussion about something that our church is doing or what God is doing in our church. And if I get in your face a little bit, I do forget I'm almost 7 feet tall, so I apologize. I forget that sometimes. I'm a little bit big. So you cannot fix a crisis without a conflict without getting into the crisis, ever, period. So I really care about the fact that there is this movement in our church of people who are being honest with their hurts. I love to see this, that people are there's this movement that God has initiated, starting in a lot of us to say, these are my hurts. You know, we went to share with Steve Heifel, our district superintendent. We didn't have a lot of deep theology. We weren't disagreeing with his methods. We said, guess what? The district kind of hurt us. The EV Free District, this is how they kind of hurt us as a church and as a staff and as a leadership. And we laid it out there. And he said to us, you know, you guys kind of hurt us too, and this is how you hurt us. We didn't try and justify it. We asked forgiveness on both sides, and it was done. We got to say our hurt. This is the most important part. You have made me feel this way. Guys, this is going to be really hard for you. You don't want to admit you got hurt by somebody. That's very vulnerable. It is. I feel like you have made me feel this way. I feel like you stepped on my toes. I feel like you squashed my soul. I feel like 25 years ago you made me feel so small and so insignificant that I still wrestle with it today. Those are the words we must use into each other's lives. We must fully confess the deep hurt that we have been committing against each other and speak it into reality and see what God does with it. And ask forgiveness if maybe we have done wrong. My question is, I love the movement we're doing. Maybe you haven't. Maybe you have these deep hurts and you sit here today and you're like, I feel like I haven't. Maybe you're mentally like crossing your arms. You're like, this isn't happening here. Join us. Join what God is doing. It's not me. It's not snappy programs we've invented. We saw something God was doing in our church and we just started to listen. It's amazing what can happen when that happens. So, how do you join it? By the way, you always talk to dad about your hurt first. And I don't mean like, God, that person makes me angry. Amen. That's stupid. There's a psalm. This is not a joke. This is a psalm. It says, daughters of Babylon, doomed to destruction. Happy is the one who repays you according to what you have done to us. Happy is the one who seizes your children and bashes them on the rocks. And they sang that at church. That'd be a fun hymn, wouldn't it? Blessed are those who bash your baby. That's crazy. How could you sing that in church? You know why they sang that in church? Because the Israelites knew something you and I don't. You have to have a place to let go of your anger toward God, toward people. You feel it, whether you like it or not. You feel that anger, and it's so deep, and you just want to kill him. Tell God that. Say, God, I'm going to kill that person that did that to me. Tell him, don't tell other people. Please, I don't need that going around. Like Jeremiah has 3 death threats, great. But tell him deeply, like that was awful. Read Psalm 137 to him. That's how I feel. Right there, God. Right there. And call him dad. And listen to what he has to say. Because it says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Because our dad moves among the peacemakers. We are his kids when we are tired and we make peace. Because there's no other option. We look like his kids there. Right there. Please, I beg you. If you need someone to talk to, I have an open door. Please call me. My email's in the bulletin. I would love to listen. Maybe something's come up this morning and you're like, I'm so mad. And I never thought about it, but it's just there still. And when I run into the person here at the church, I run into one of the staff members, it's just there. Please talk to me. I'll tell you one thing. You talk to me, I feel like it's somebody else, I will send you to them. I am not here to middleman, but I'm here to listen and give you a start and pray with you and see what God has for you, as are all our pastors. Some of you don't like sitting with me. I understand. I can be a bit overwhelming. That's why we have 5 or 6 pastors. Okay? So we have Maury, and we have Chris, and we have Brad, and we have Tammy, and we have Pastor Al. We have these wonderful personalities, and if you don't mix with one of us, listen to us. But I will tell you, every single one of us are committed to one thing. You talk to us, we're sending you to the person, because it's the only right thing we know how to do. Unless you've been abused by that person and you need protection, we will send you to them. Please go talk to them. But we would love to spend the next few weeks and months listening to what's going on. I love a Sunday school class, this honesty. This is brutal honesty. I saw a whiteboard. He had sent me the text, and it said, your staff is completely out of touch with us. That's how we feel right now. The staff of this church is out of touch with the people in the church. That was awesome. I loved it. I didn't love it all the way, but I loved it mostly, okay? I loved it. I loved it because it was like, thank you for being honest. That kind of honesty is what God is bringing out of us. I do not take that personal. Now, if you call me ugly or something, I do take that personal, okay? But if it's professional stuff, I don't take that personal. I'm ready to work through this with you. I'm ready to ask forgiveness, and our staff is as well, through the things that have happened through our community. Remember what Pastor said last week? Hurting people hurt people? Remember he said that? Hurting people hurt people. But God blesses us when we're so tired we give up. Hurting people may hurt people, but God blesses the peacemakers who are tired. God blesses those who are tired of that. Hurting people hurt people. Whoever's ready to stop and go, I'm tired, I'm done. Done talking junk behind people's back. I'm done trying to get back at them for that stuff. I'm just done, I'm done. And they may nail me more and more, but I'm done. I'm finished. That's blessed. Blessed are the peacemakers. God is close to those who are tired of fighting. Letting go is contagious, by the way, and he is so good. He is better than we deserve. He has never left us. He has moved in the place we most need him. Remember Narnia? Book, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. 100-year winter. This witch has turned the entire beautiful land into just snow. It was, 100-year winter without ever having Christmas. Yes. And when Edmund and Lucy and Peter and Susan show up, they go and they start to move across the land, and they step into the Beaver's home, if you remember this. And they're sitting in there, and Mrs. Beaver says something that was repeated to me by Rita Nystrom recently. She goes, Aslan's on the move. Something is changing. Her power is dropping. You may think he forgot about us for 100 years, but he didn't. He is on the move. He is moving. He is doing things. He is moving among us. God is on the move. To see so many of you go from a place of anger, and myself as well, and hurt, to what, hey, God's doing things. I just missed it before. How exciting is that for our family? God is on the move. Aslan is on the move. I know we may have seemed to have lost friends and momentum in our church in the last few years, but God is on the move. He is good to us. We do not deserve him being on the move. We do not deserve the chances he's given us. 105-year-old church, he's given us at least 100 chances. We'll go with that, okay? He's given us a lot, and yet we are here, and yet he moves among us, and yet he moves into our hearts and helps us to heal in places we never thought we could. We are called children of God because we are peacemakers. As I end today, I would like to do something for some of you that are hurting. You may never get to speak to the person, maybe on our staff or leadership, who hurt you for whatever reason. Maybe they've left, maybe they're not around anymore, maybe you just can't seem to talk to them or you'll never be able to. I'm going to say something you may not like this morning. I'm going to say something to you this morning for our entire staff that you may not enjoy as a hurting person. I am sorry. I'm sorry for our miscommunication sometimes that have created hurt. I am sorry you have felt disempowered and undervalued at times in the last few years as we figure out the new Constitution. I'm sorry for that we change too fast sometimes, and it hurts you. I'm sorry that sometimes as a staff person, myself and others have not listened well over the last 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. I am sorry that the hurts we have caused are so deep in some of your lives. I know I may not have caused them, but as the lead pastor of this church, I speak to you now that I am sorry. I ask your forgiveness. I do not do this for your approval. I don't do this so you like you better. No, you like me better. I do this because I have been called to ask this. He said this to me this week. He said, say you're sorry, and then we argued all week. I said, I don't want to do that. He goes, you need to do that. So this morning, as our staff here at Crossroads Church, whether it was yesterday or 30 years ago, the lead pastor presently says he is sorry. And he wants to do everything possible to help you through that. I'm committed to it because I believe God is committed to it. And when I see him moving, I'm going to stick with it. So may you go in peace, Crossroads Church. We will see you next week. Thank you for being here this morning.